I'm fine as it is.
My voice.
I'm fine. Let's like what one.
My voice on this channel.
Don't worry about it. Are you going to carry on, or because look, I know I've done enough to be able to refute you on this. But if you would like to bring another verse, please bring it up so I can refute you some more.
Okay.
And just to
Surah 5 verse 47.
yeah, just to clarify, this is going to.
The people of the gospel judged by what has revealed within. Okay, who are the people of the gospel?
Which verse is it? Sorry, 47.
547. And that's the people of the gospel. Okay, who's that?
The people of Jesus' time.
People of Jesus' time.
Yeah, because the verse has it فَلْيَحْكُمْ.
So why is Allah commanding something for people 600 years?
And the lam here, can mean of that time or some other time. But given that it's speaking about Jesus, it's more plausible, if we're doing an internal critique of the verse, it's more plausible to say that that has to be in reference to the people of Jesus' time, because the verse continues. Read it, and you'll realize.
People of the Injil.
People, ya Ahlul Injil.
Why would Allah, at the time of Muhammad, what year was Muhammad born?
No, can you please read the verse, please?
What year was he born? What year did he die?
What's that got to do with anything? What's that got to do with anything? 570 and 632 and.
Okay, so why is Allah? And when did he become a prophet?
No, excuse me. You're trying to bring a verse 547. You're going to trying to substantiate that this proves that the Christians are being told to go back to the entirety of their Gospels?
So, are you saying that at 600 AD, Allah is talking to people that died 600 years ago?
If you mind bringing the verse up so that I'll address that once we bring the verse up, so I can show you that it has to be referring to Jesus' time.
Okay.
Why not? In Surah Al-Ma'idah chapter 5 verse 43, the Quran teaches the Jews to judge by what Allah has revealed in the Torah. That's a contemporary statement of that time, because there's a hadith that coincides with it.
43 might be, but not 47.
Just to make the point, there's a hadith that coincides with it about the Rajab, stoning.
Yeah, 43, like I've said, I've conceded that 43 might be, but 47, there is no, because if it's an internal critique, you'll bring the hadith in, which makes it an external critique, but we're trying to do this on an internal critique.
Okay, in that case, but you do understand, and that's what is generally accepted, that there's a hadith.
No, it's not generally accepted. If you go to external critique, Ibn Kathir brings the lam here in regards to verse 47, and he says that it can be interpreted in two ways according to the Arabic language. Either it refers to the Christians of Prophet Muhammad's time, or it refers to the Christians of Jesus' time.
Okay.
So, since we're doing an internal critique, you guys have to bring a symmetry breaker that establishes that this verse has to apply to the Christians of Muhammad's time and not Jesus' time. I'm saying you'll never be able to do that. So therefore, the verse 47 that you're bringing cannot be used as evidence that this is telling the Christians to go back to the entirety of the gospel. And that is the claim that the horn of the dilemma necessitates. The horn of the dilemma has it that the Jews and the Christians, the Quran is telling them to go back to the entirety of the scriptures.
But it's about a confirmation, that's what the dilemma is. It's about confirming.
Yeah, confirming the entirety of it.
So when it says, sorry, yeah, just
very quickly.
It's just a small point. I don't want to interfere with your thing.
I appreciate it.
But when I was looking at, when she was mentioning 547 and 543, it's all mentioned within the same context. Because then it's solidified in 548, where the Quran speaks of the previous books as a guardian, a muhaymin. Precisely. That's what it says. So when the Quran is teaching the people of the book to judge by what Allah has revealed in it, that's literally how the Quran is being a muhaymin. That's literally how it's being a guardian.
Okay.
It's telling them to judge by what Allah has revealed in the previous revelation.
But not in.
Hold on a second.
But not in its entirety.
The reason why it's also in its entirety is because it's part of the pillars. It's part of the 6 articles of faith of Islam. Within the same chapter. Sorry, that's Surah Al-Baqarah. It teaches you within the Quran to believe in the previous books. So if you have to believe in the previous books, then you cannot believe that those previous books are corrupted.
Yeah.
So at the time, then when
it's not for me to make that argument.
No, but just to make the point. So at 543, it said in the same time as 547, and we know
No, that's not true.
And we know from
That's not true.
And we know from 543 that there was the hadith about Rajab, where the Jews came. I'm paraphrasing here. It's been a while. Where Jews came and they were mentioning we were caught in adultery, and the punishment was going to be lashes. But then, according to the Torah, it's actually rajam, stoning. They brought forward the Torah and they uncovered the verse and it said stoning, and it was prescribed for them to be stoned according to that. So that's how you would show that it was a contemporary, it was in Muhammad's time, because it actually was applied during Muhammad's time.
Yeah, shall I tell you the flaw in your argument? The very example you've given can be used to show that the Quran is speaking specifically about a part of the Torah, not the whole of it. The Quran actually uses in verses 44 onwards, it constantly uses an Arabic phrase that tells us that it's restricting the Torah and the Injil having a light and guidance within it to a specific portion of the Torah, not the whole of it. It uses, just very quickly, I haven't actually brought the argument. It uses the word yahkum. And yahkum comes from the word hukum, which means legislative rulings. That discounts soteriology, theology, eschatology. So the argument you're bringing is an argument against the Islamic dilemma, because the verse and the example you're bringing talks about the Jews and the Christians being told to apply the legislation, not the Torah in its entirety. So now you have to bring an argument to show from those verses that the Quran is telling the Jews and the Christians to apply the whole of it.
So are you of the camp of general confirmation?
It's not for me to say.
Are you saying that
It's not for me to say. Like I said, you guys are bringing the argument. I'm the defendant. I don't need to open my mouth. It's for you to establish.
I hear what you're saying. If I'm being honest with you, it sounds like you just conceded. And I'll tell you why. Because you said that they were using the Torah for legislation.
And that's it.
If the Quran is generally confirming the previous scriptures because they're corrupted, then the legislation wouldn't be in the Torah. It would be in the Quran.
No, it's not. It's not the fact. The fact.
The mere fact that they're using the Torah shows that the Torah is authoritative.
No, but you've already conceded.
The mere fact that
You said that the Jews came to the Prophet Muhammad. So
No, he was brought to Muhammad. I paraphrased. I said that these
the
Jews
Jews. No. The Jews came to the Prophet Muhammad.
It's fine. I let the hadith speak.
Fine.
I'm
But
paraphrasing.
we were having a conversation here, so I don't understand why you're suddenly. Because what we're doing, no. Maybe we can carry this on afterwards. But it seems like we're deviating away from what I'm trying to get her to actually establish, which is a verse which actually. Okay, so 547.
To give your position, because how can we have a discussion on anything if we don't know how the person believes?
That's why I'm hoping you can tell me why it is that you believe.
On the Torah and the
I believe quite clearly. I mean, before we do that, can we just talk about 547 and how you think that this actually proves the point?
But it will help our discussion if I know where you're coming from. So what do you think of the Torah and the Injil?
What do I think about the Torah and the Injil? That there's nothing in the Quran that tells the Jews and the Christians to go back to the entirety of it. There's no absolute qualifier. I'll give you an example. Matthew 23:3.
Go back to the entirety of it.
Yeah, so can I give you an example?
You keep saying this.
Can I give you an example of it?
No,
What I mean by that?
I don't think that the Quran doesn't give those exact words. You need to go back to the
Thank you very much. So the Quran does not say unequivocally and clearly that the Jews and the Christians are being told to go back to the entirety of the Bible. Thank you for admitting that.
Yeah, that wasn't my point at all.
No, but that's the horn of the dilemma, because if you claim that the
Quran's not going to say.
So just let me- just-
go back to these books.
yeah, just let me quickly finish. If you
Allah wants everyone to be Muslim, right?
if the horn of the dilemma, Islamic dilemma, does not substantiate that the entirety of the Torah and the Gospel should be accessed, that the Jews and the Christians should not go back to the entirety of it, then it can't tie in with the so-called contradiction, which is the second of the dilemma, where the Quran says that the Torah and the Injil has been corrupted. In order for the contradiction to actually make any sense, the Torah and the Injil is corrupted, has to have an opposite, which is the Torah and the Injil has not been corrupted. That's the way you acquire the dilemma. Otherwise, there is no dilemma, and we Muslims have an escape route, because you Christians have conceded that the Torah and the Injil is not entirely corrupted. Even if you admit there's 1% that the Torah and the Injil is not corrupted. Even if
the Quran confirms the Torah and the Injil, the inspiration, the preservation, and the authority. And
not in its entirety.
So Islam teaches that in order to have salvation, you need to follow Muhammad, believe in the Quran, believe in Muhammad. Right?
Yes. But you Jews and Christians have been told in chapter 5, verse 58.
So I'm not saying
You Christians have nothing until you follow the Quran, the Torah and the Injil, and that which has been revealed down to you from your Lord. And we already established that which has been revealed down to you from your Lord in the previous verse is the same formula that says, Ya ayyuhar rusul, O messenger, proclaim what has been revealed down to you from your Lord. So in other words, in order for you to be consistent, you have to follow the Quran.
I'm not saying that Islam doesn't teach that everybody needs salvation to follow Muhammad.
I know.
To follow the Quran. No, I'm not saying that the Quran or Islam teaches us not. What I'm saying is that there are several verses in the Quran that affirm the authority.
Not in its entirety. There's nothing in either the English language, and definitely not in the Arabic, that says the whole of it. And this is what you require for your first horn of the dilemma to be true. The whole of it.
Can I respond? Okay, so Surah 5 verse 47 says, and let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah has revealed therein. So are you saying that Allah is saying people of the gospel need to judge by part of what's in the gospel? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
So Allah...
Sorry. Your question was, are you saying that the people of the book are being told to?
You need to judge by what Allah has revealed within the gospel. Allah is actually meaning you need to judge by some parts of the gospel that I've revealed, because the other parts of the gospel I haven't.
No, because if you take that verse in context, it's speaking about the gospel being revealed to Jesus. The verse before it speaks about Jesus being given the Gospels, and then it says about the people of the Scripture, the people of the Gospels, to judge by it. It's in relation to the people of the Gospels during Jesus' time. And I'm saying that the Arabic language gives us that nuance through the use of the letter lam at the beginning of that verse. And so if you're going to argue, you have to argue against either the Arabic language and the use of the lam here, or you have to bring some type of symmetry breaker that actually establishes, well, actually, the verse can infer more than just the Christians during Jesus' time.
Let's go bit by bit through that. Okay, so the first thing is we agree that Allah sent down the Injil to Jesus.
Yep.
Right? Okay, and then it says, let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah has revealed therein. So you're saying this is the people at Jesus' time. Okay, so they needed to judge by what was in the gospel. Okay, so are you saying that at the time of Jesus, there was an uncorrupted Injil being revealed by...
Absolutely. Because remember, it's talking about Jesus' gospel, not the gospel of Matthew, Mark, Luke and John.
Okay,
so how are you going to know...
Hang on. Okay, great, okay. So you agree then that at the time of Jesus, there was an uncorrupted Injil.
Yep.
So it was not corrupted, it was not changed.
No, there was no Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. As soon as Matthew, Mark, Luke and John arose, it's when it was corrupted.
So what is this Injil? What is this Injil that this is referring to?
I just told you. It's referring to the time of the Christians during the time of Jesus' time.
Okay.
I mean, how is that difficult to understand?
Was it written down, this Injil, at the time of Jesus?
His Injil?
Yeah, was it written down?
No, it's already transmitted.
I believe the Quran says it was written down.
Yep, can you show me where?
7157.
What does it say there? And what does it say? I mean, even if I concede the point that it was written down, how are you going to now use this to show that it's referring to the Christians during Muhammad's time?
My question is, what is this written Quran telling Jesus? What is it?
Well, kitab,
Where is it?
the written down doesn't necessarily mean in written form. So for instance, in the Quran, God says about when Jesus speaks in the cradle, it says that we gave him the kitab wal hikmah, the book and the hikmah, which is the wisdom. But there was nothing written down there. So the word kitab can be used equivocally. It depends on the context in which it is used. Does that make sense? So you have to now bring an evidence, because remember, the onus is upon you. You have to show. No, I'm not defending my Quran. I'm refuting the Islamic dilemma. I'm refuting your Islamic dilemma. I'm refuting your Islamic dilemma. And that is all I have to do.
I'm just reading the Quran.
So do you have any evidence to show that this book refers to the book during the time of Muhammad's time or not? Chapter 5, verse 47.
I asked you, what is the Injil? You said it was at the time of Jesus, it was given to Jesus. And in Surah 7,
orally.
5:7, it says that you can find in the Injil and the Torah, it's written down.
Yes, so you can use it equivocally. So in this instance, it's in reference to whom?
So Surah 7, 157, it says that the Injil is written down. Because Muhammad is written in there, according to this verse.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Okay?
Right.
Okay, so what is the Injil?
And so?
What is the Injil?
Okay, so for argument's sake, arguendo, I'll say it was written down. Now, what's your argument?
So we've established that the Injil was given to Jesus, it was not corrupted at the time of Jesus, and it was written down at the time of Jesus.
Carry on.
Okay, so then my next question is, where is it?
Where is this book? It was corrupted when you guys ended up usurping that and bringing out the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
So who wrote down this book that the Quran refers to was written down?
Okay, let's hypothetically say it was written down by his companions. And how's that going to help you?
Okay, well,
Now make the argument, Bridget.
my Bible, my New Testament was written down by Jesus.
No, it wasn't. Your Gospels state that Jesus, he preached the Evangelion. And that's in the singular. That's in the singular. But I'll ask you this question, I'll ask any Christian this question. When this claim that Jesus preached the Evangelion, when he was preaching, was he preaching Mark?
Yes.
No.
Jesus preached, and his companions, and the people that came after.
So was he preaching Luke? Because Luke wasn't a disciple.
Luke explains how he carefully investigated everything. And he interviewed the eyewitnesses. Carefully
Was he preaching John? That came 120 CE? That's what, 80 years removed from Jesus' time? No. So when we speak about the Injil, we are speaking about the revelation that Jesus spoke, which may or may not have been written down.
According to 7157, it was written down.
There's some opinions that hold that it was an oral tradition only.
7157 says
Fine.
Muhammad is written in the Injil.
Like I said, even if I give you that, now you have to use that to show that the verse 547 is referring to what? That same gospel that was written down during Jesus' time. Where does it say that in the verse, and how are you going to make that gap?
That there are two gospels. There's one referred to
I'm not saying that. That's what history says.
Jesus' time.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that's what history says. That there was the gospel of Jesus, which Jesus himself is made to say, that he spoke, that he preached the Evangelion, and then you have the plurality of gospels, which were written after his time.
No, you just
So-
said before. You said before that it was written down. So who would have been written down by? You said his companions.
Yeah, which wasn't Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Oh, which companions was it?
I don't know. That's information that's lost to us. Remember, I'm granting you the argument that it was written down. I don't hold that it was written down.
Okay, so you just said it was written down.
No, but I interpret that differently. Remember, I say kataba yaktubu or anything like that, kitab, etc. these words can be used equivocally. And it depends on the context in which they're being used. So if you're bringing the argument that this means that the word kitab means written in book form and that's it, you have to bring some type of argument for that.
What on earth does this mean? It doesn't mean what it says.
Because, like I mentioned, I'll give you that example again. Just 1 second. When the Quran says that Jesus spoke in the cradle, it says that he was given the kitab and hikmah. But as a baby, there was no book written down, was there? No. So therefore the word kitab here does not mean kitab in the written form. It means kitab in the revelatory form. So that tells you that the word kitab can be used equivocally. There's no unequivocal interpretation for that word. So in order for you to bring your argument, you have to bring some type of underlying argument for your claim that the word kitab can only mean one thing only. And you don't have that. So why are you bringing 7157 for?
Let's read Surah 7, verse 157. Let's read what it says. Those who follow the messenger, the unlettered prophets, whom they find written in what they have of the Torah and the Gospel.
Okay, so how does this substantiate the first horn of your dilemma?
Well, it's written. So Allah's trying to get us to believe in Muhammad by saying, oh, he's been written about in your Torah.
Yep, so how does this prove that the Jews and the Christians are being told to go back to the entirety of the Gospels and the Torah?
This point I'm making here is that the Injil is written down, the Torah is written down according to this book. That's the point I was making. It's a written book. So we've established that you think that there was an Injil that was uncorrupted, unchanged at the time of Jesus, and it was written
622.
down. And it could have been written down by his companions. Okay. But you think that sometime after that it got changed?
So you don't have very much, do you? All I'm asking is a simple way of you trying to show that verse 547 means that this is in reference to the time of the Christians during the time of Prophet Muhammad's time and them being told to follow the entirety of the Gospel. Do you have anything to substantiate that beyond just mere eisegesis or your own interpretation?
Quran verses. So it says, people of the Gospel judge by what Allah has revealed within. So you've agreed that you think at the time of Jesus that there was an uncorrupted Injil. Okay. So when did it get changed?